I went back to the bungalow. Now I wish I hadn't. I didn't think much would come from visiting the first of many of my childhood homes. My family still lived in the village, but through the twists and turns of residential streets, and with it sitting on the other side of the town, I had no reason to go back there. The place looked smaller than I remembered. The front garden where I had spent entire summers seemed barely big enough to turn around in. It was a semi-detached bungalow with a garage and driveway, alongside which ran a narrow path that led to a gate into the back garden. I'd visited my parents like I did a few times a year, but for some reason this visit was different. I hadn't thought of this house for a long time, but for some unexplained reason it popped into my head as I went to go to the shop for my mom, so I drove over to see it. Part of me wishes I didn't. I stood there outside the house for about 10 minutes. That should have been the end of it. Instead, it was only the beginning. A couple of days later, having returned home to my wife and kids across the country, I called my mom, unable to get the thought of that place out of my head. I don't even remember why. Something about standing outside that house had unsettled me. Not frightened me exactly, just unsettled me. It felt like standing there I had done something really wrong, and like I had forgotten something important. While we were talking, I mentioned my old neighbor. "Do you remember Rex?" I asked. "God," Mom said. "I haven't heard that name in years." For a moment, neither of us said anything. I was surprised she remembered him at all. I barely did. The memories I have of Rex are strange. Not strange in the way ghost stories are strange. Strange in the way childhood memories are strange. They're incomplete. I remember his cigarettes. Not him smoking them. Just the smell. The smell seemed to seep through everything. Through the hedge between our gardens. Through the wall that separated our houses. Through his clothes. When I think of Rex, that's the first thing I remember. Then the sweets. I couldn't tell you what he looked like with any certainty. I don't remember the color of his eyes. I don't remember how tall he was. But I remember the sweets. They always seemed to appear from nowhere. One moment his hands would be empty. The next there would be a boiled sweet resting in his palm. My parents never liked me taking them, and I remember Mom telling me not to bother him. Was he odd? I asked to bridge the silence. What? Rex, was he? I don't know. Strange. Mom laughed softly. No more strange than any other old man. I don't know why that answer disappointed me. Maybe because standing outside that house had stirred up a feeling I'd spent years forgetting. A feeling that something wasn't right. Not necessarily with Rex. Just around him. I told Mom about the smell. She laughed again. He smoked 40 a day? 40. Probably more. That explained the smell. At least it explained some of it. There were other memories. Little flashes. I remember him coughing through the wall at night. I remember the orange glow of his living room window after dark. I remember being convinced he never slept. But none of those explained the feeling of dread that was coming up within me. Mom punctuated my thoughts with what she said next. You used to talk about him all the time. What do you mean? You were obsessed with him for a while. I frowned. I don't remember that. No, you were 4. Maybe 5. What did I say? There was another pause. Then she said something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. You kept telling us someone was watching Rex. I laughed when she said it. Genuinely laughed. It sounded ridiculous. The sort of thing a child would invent. The sort of thing that belongs in a dream. But after we ended the call, I sat in silence for nearly 10 minutes. Because although I didn't remember saying it, I suddenly remembered the feeling. Not someone watching me. Someone watching him. The experience was terrifying, but also frustrating. I simply couldn't piece together a single memory that fully explained the feeling I was having. This was a feeling that I had, for all intents and purposes, completely erased from my mind. There's something different about childhood fear. Something that feels raw, distilled. You don't understand the world. So when something scares you, that feeling of the unknown overwhelms your mind and sends you right into terror. I tried to comfort myself by dismissing it as childhood imagination. I tried to move on, but I'd opened a door by visiting the house and speaking to my mom about Rex. An open door that now wouldn't let me forget that feeling. I found my mind wandering to other fragmented and broken memories from that time in my life, and today I spoke to Mom again. I asked her if she remembered a day in the garden. At first she didn't know what I was talking about. Then I mentioned the grass seed. That made her laugh. Oh God, she said. You used to throw it all over your father. As soon as she said it, something shifted. Not a memory exactly, more like the outline of one. A shape emerging from fog. I remembered the garden. The sunlight. Dad was bent over the lawn while I followed behind him, convinced I was helping. I'd take handfuls of grass seed from the box and sprinkle them onto his shoulders. Every time he stood up, it would fall to the ground, and I'd laugh. It's one of the happiest memories I have from that house, and for a moment I felt warm. I hadn't thought about that for a long time, but then I remembered the fear again. For years I couldn't remember why I had become so upset. I only remembered that I did. Not a tantrum, not a scraped knee, real fear. The sort that arrives so suddenly that your body reacts before your mind does. As I spoke to Mom, another piece returned. Just one. A sudden feeling of being watched, then looking up toward the back fence. Seeing a hand. Even writing that sounds ridiculous. A hand, nothing more. No face, no body, no monster. Just fingers resting on the top of the fence for a second before disappearing. There was something odd about them. The skin looked uneven, marked. I remember staring at the knuckles because they looked wrong somehow. I couldn't have explained why then, and I still can't now. Then they were gone. I don't know why that terrified me. It shouldn't have. Even now, it sounds completely harmless. But the moment I remembered it, I felt that same knot in my stomach as I had stood outside that old house. Because I knew something else. Something I hadn't realized until that moment. The hand wasn't what was frightening me. It was the recognition. Not the fence. Not the garden. The hand. I'd seen it before. I just couldn't remember where.